Dr. Amanda Brooks sat at her station in the NASA Deep Space Monitoring Facility, her eyes fixed on the monitor in front of her. Her coffee had long gone cold, abandoned in her frantic haste to understand the anomaly she had been tracking for the past 3 hours. The signal, which had appeared out of nowhere, was unlike any glitch or data distortion she had ever encountered. Something massive had just arrived, and it had dropped out of what could only be described as faster-than-light travel, right at the edge of the solar system. Amanda's heart raced as she scanned the data. The object was unlike anything they had ever detected, an enigma that could defy the boundaries of human understanding. It wasn't just any spacecraft. It was enormous, measuring nearly 2 miles long, and its scans were relentless, sweeping across the entire solar system with an efficiency that made their own advanced technology seem primitive by comparison. Her mind raced, trying to grasp the scale of what was happening. This wasn't a drill, this was the real deal. She grabbed her phone to call Dr. Michael "Mad Mike" Thompson, the head of their quantum research division. Before she could dial, every screen in the facility blinked in unison. The computers seemed to freeze, lines of incomprehensible data pouring across the monitors, cascading like a waterfall, filling the screens with information that was both familiar and foreign. "Ma'am," came the voice of Jerry, her junior analyst, from across the room. "We're picking up similar signals from every major observatory worldwide. Whatever this is, it's big." Amanda's fingers danced across her keyboard, pulling up the incoming data streams, trying to make sense of it. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. Every piece of data screamed of alien intelligence, technology far beyond human capabilities. Her phone rang before she could even gather her thoughts. Was Mike. "Amanda, tell me you're seeing this?" His voice crackled through, tense with excitement. "The quantum fluctuations are off the chart. This isn't human tech, not even close." Amanda watched the incoming data with renewed focus, trying to decode the alien vessel's activities. "Mike," she said slowly, "they're scanning our quantum research facilities. All of them. Worldwide. They're specifically interested in our quantum tech." "That's unexpected." There was a long pause before Thompson replied, his voice barely containing the excitement. "Most theoretical models suggest that advanced civilizations would have abandoned quantum research as inefficient long ago, so why focus on us?" He sounded almost out of breath, a mixture of awe and confusion. "What are they after, Amanda?" "I don't know, Mike," she replied. "But whatever it is, it's big. This is no accident." Far away on Mars, at Olympus Base, Commander Carl Rold stood in the command center, staring at the same data flashing across his own screen. The alien vessel had appeared just beyond Neptune's orbit, and it was slowly moving inward, scanning everything in its path with a calculated precision that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Every sensor, every piece of technology they had on Mars was now on high alert. "Status report," Rold barked, his voice tense. "Sir," Lieutenant Shin replied, "our stealth protocols are holding. The base's quantum shielding is masking our heat signature, just like the test showed. As far as we can tell, they don't know we're here." Rold nodded, feeling a brief sense of relief. The Mars Defense Base had been a controversial project, consuming billions of dollars in black budget funds. But now, as he watched the data coming in, he was thankful for the quantum shielding technology that had been incorporated into the base's defenses. If not for that, they would have likely been detected already. Meanwhile, Amanda and Mike were deep in discussion, pulling up old research files. Something about the alien scans seemed almost familiar. "Mike, are you still there?" Amanda asked, her voice sharp with realization. "Do you remember that quantum entanglement experiment we did last year? The one that failed spectacularly, the one that produced those weird harmonic patterns? The coffee maker incident? How could I forget?" Thompson chuckled faintly. "We were finding quantum-entangled coffee grounds for weeks. It was a mess." He paused as he pulled up the data she had referenced. "Wait, look at these scan patterns from the alien ship." Amanda's eyes widened. "They're using quantum entanglement on a massive scale. But the signature, the harmonic patterns. Mike, it's almost identical to our failed experiment." There was a stunned silence on the line. "That's impossible," Thompson muttered. "Unless," he trailed off, processing the data. "Unless they're dealing with the same fundamental laws of physics that we are." Amanda's heart skipped a beat as the pieces clicked into place. "So they might be advanced, Mike, but they're not gods. They have limitations. Just like us." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent priority alert. The alien vessel had accelerated, increasing its speed as it approached the inner solar system. On Mars, Rold's face grew even graver as the data kept coming in. "Get me a direct line to command," he ordered. Now. Before the communication officer could respond, every screen in the command center switched to static. When the image cleared, a new message appeared on the screen. It was a chilling transmission. Preliminary SCA. Incomplete civilization assessment. Pending. Amanda's blood ran cold as she read the same message on her own screen in Houston. SCA, civilization assessment. They weren't just being visited by this alien race. They were being judged. Mike, Amanda said quietly, her voice trembling, I think we need to get to Washington. Right now. She didn't need to explain further. The gravity of the situation was clear. The alien vessel wasn't just a visitor. It was a harbinger of something far worse. Something that would change the course of human history forever. As they spoke, the alien ship accelerated again, crossing the distance to Jupiter in a fraction of the time any human calculations had suggested was possible. Time was running out, and humanity's first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization was rapidly turning into an unimaginable confrontation. The alien ship wasn't just here to explore or make contact. It was here to judge, and Earth had mere months to submit to its authority or face the consequences. Back on Earth, the entire world was about to change forever. As the data kept pouring in, Amanda could only wonder if their advanced quantum research would prove to be their salvation. Or, perhaps, their greatest vulnerability. The tension was palpable in the room as Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the air, his words laced with apprehension. Jaw clenched, sir, he reported, I'm telling you our quantum shields are still holding. They can't detect us. He hesitated for a moment before continuing, his voice almost faltering. But they just demonstrated the ability to destroy an entire planet, sir. Does hiding even matter anymore? Colonel Reynolds leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing with determination as he shot a grim smile at the young officer. It matters more than ever, Lieutenant. You can't fight what you can't find. Stay hidden. That's our advantage, stealth for now. Reynolds knew that the time to hide was growing shorter, but for the moment, their best option was to remain undetected. There was no telling how much longer they could keep their stealth protocols intact, especially with an enemy that had just showcased planet-killing technology. Humanity was facing a threat unlike anything they had ever imagined, and Reynolds knew that their survival hinged on their ability to stay hidden long enough to devise a way to fight back. Back in Washington, things were moving just as quickly. Dr. Amanda Brooks and Dr. Michael Thompson had been rushed to a secure facility beneath the Pentagon, a bunker where high-level government officials gathered to prepare for the worst. General Patterson, a commanding presence in the room, loomed over them, his face hard and focused as he paced around their workstations. The intensity of the moment was apparent in every movement, as if the fate of humanity rested solely on the shoulders of these two scientists. Talk to me, doctors, Patterson barked, his voice low and urgent. Give me something we can use. Amanda's fingers flew across her keyboard, her mind racing to decode the complex data embedded within the transmission. The information that had been sent to Earth was more than just a warning, it contained a wealth of technical details, information that could provide critical insights into the alien invaders' technology. As her eyes scanned the data, her thoughts raced. These aliens were so confident in their superiority that they hadn't even considered the possibility that humanity could understand their technology, let alone use it against them. They're arrogant, Amanda muttered under her breath, a touch of disbelief in her voice. The transmission contains detailed technical specifications of their ships, their weapons, everything. They're so sure of their power that they didn't even think we might be able to comprehend this data. Thompson, always the optimist and now on the edge of excitement, leaned over her shoulder. Oh, we can do more than just understand it, he said, his voice full of glee. The quantum signatures in this data, they're using a primitive form of quantum manipulation. Primitive compared to what we've been working on anyway? Amanda looked up at him, her eyes wide with realization. Primitive, she repeated. They can destroy entire planets with brute force, but our quantum research, it's focused on precision, on manipulating energy at the smallest scales. They never went down that path because they didn't need to. Why develop a scalpel when you've got a sledgehammer, right? The room fell silent as the implications of Amanda's words sank in. Humanity had just 1 year to prepare for an enemy capable of wiping out their entire planet. But that was also 1 year to develop something that the Empire would never expect. Weapons that the aliens themselves had never thought to create because they had never considered the need for them. Patterson's voice broke through the silence. Get me the president, he ordered sharply. And get Carl rolled on the line. If we're going to survive this, we need every advantage we can get. As Patterson left to make the necessary calls, Amanda turned to Thompson, her eyes filled with determination. 1 year to develop working quantum weapons. Do you think we can do it? Thompson's grin grew wider, a manic gleam in his eyes. Remember the coffee maker incident? He asked, his voice tinged with excitement. Let's hope the Empire likes their planets extra crispy. Above them, the massive hologram of the alien being faded, leaving the Earth in stunned silence. The transmission had been sent, the message received, and humanity was now at a crossroads. They had been given 1 year to prepare for a conflict that could destroy everything they knew. But they were not without hope. The alien empire's confidence was their first mistake. 3 months into humanity's countdown, the hidden facility deep in the Colorado Rockies hummed with desperate energy. Dr. Amanda Brooks hadn't seen the light of day in what felt like weeks. Her workspace was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the soft blue glow of quantum containment fields and the flickering holographic displays that surrounded her. Her mind was laser-focused on the task at hand, the pressure of the situation weighing heavily on her shoulders. Coffee delivery, a voice announced from the door. Amanda didn't look up from her calculations. She was far too immersed in her work. The latest quantum weapon simulation had failed catastrophically, again. The cup of coffee beside her hummed with a low frequency as she tried to make sense of the data. It was only a minor irritation in the grand scheme of things, but it was enough to pull her out of her focus for a moment. Thanks, Ash, Amanda mumbled, acknowledging the presence of Ashley Thompson, Dr. Thompson's 16-year-old daughter. Since the global school closures, Ashley had become the unofficial mascot of Project Threshold, spending most of her time with her father as the world's top scientists worked tirelessly to devise a way to combat the alien threat. As Ashley placed the coffee cup down beside Amanda, there was a sudden, sharp humming noise. The cup began to vibrate, then levitate, slowly rising into the air in a perfect sphere. Amanda's head snapped up in shock. Ashley, she shouted, eyes wide with disbelief. The coffee, it's floating? Ashley froze, her eyes wide as well. It's happening again, she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Just as Amanda was about to move toward the floating object, Dr. Thompson burst into the lab, his usually wild gray hair even more disheveled than normal. Containment breach in Lab 7, he called out, but then his expression changed as he saw the phenomenon unfolding in front of them. Wait, this is different. Amanda's heart raced as she quickly checked the readings. The quantum field isn't dissipating like before, she said, her voice rising in excitement. It's stable. Look at the pattern distribution. It's centered on Ashley. Thompson rushed over to his daughter's side, a scanner in hand. Ash, honey, have you been feeling any different lately? He asked, his voice filled with concern. Ashley nodded slowly, her face a mixture of wonder and apprehension. I've been having these weird dreams, she said. About patterns. The kind of patterns like the ones in the Imperial data but clearer, more defined. Last night I think I finally understood what they mean. Amanda and Thompson exchanged a look, their minds racing. What do you mean? Amanda asked gently, trying to understand. Ashley took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding beyond her years. I think I understand how their technology works. But they're doing it all wrong. She pointed to the floating coffee cup. Their brains are too old, too set in their ways. They fight against the natural flow of quantum physics. That's why their technology is so brutal, why it's so rigid. Amanda pulled up comparative scans on the main screen, showing the stark contrast between the Empire's rigid quantum technology and the fluidity of what Ashley was demonstrating. She's right, Amanda said, almost in awe. Their technology is like trying to dam a river. Ours could be like becoming the river. Patterson, who had been observing from the control room, walked into the lab just as Ashley opened her eyes, breaking the spell. Can we weaponize it? He asked, his voice sharp with urgency. Thompson's grin widened. We can revolutionize it, he said. Ashley, show them what you showed me this morning. With a deep breath, Ashley closed her eyes once more. The floating objects around her began to move, dancing in complex patterns, rearranging themselves into a three-dimensional model that looked like a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen, and certainly unlike anything the Empire could ever conceive. The design was not rigid or brute force. It flowed, adapted, and shifted in ways that only quantum manipulation at the smallest scales could allow. Quantum physics isn't about force, Ashley explained, her voice distant. It's about possibility. It's about being in multiple states at once. The room was silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The Empire's first mistake had been underestimating humanity's potential. Now, with Ashley's discovery, they had a chance. An opportunity to not only fight back, but to redefine what it meant to wield power in a universe ruled by quantum forces. The future was wide open and humanity was ready to embrace it. The room was filled with a palpable sense of urgency, as the quantum shielding simulation that Amanda Brooks had been running began to show positive results. Her computer chimed, alerting her to the success of the modified simulation, which had incorporated the groundbreaking insights Ashley Thompson had offered. "It's a 100% success rate," Amanda said quietly, almost in disbelief. For the first time in months, a spark of hope flickered in the hearts of those in the room. The Empire's impenetrable technological edge was no longer an insurmountable obstacle. Humanity had found a way through, and they had found it with the help of their young, quantum-sensitive minds. Amanda's voice broke through the silence. "We need more teenagers. And we need them now." General Patterson was already on the phone, his expression hardening with resolve. "Get me the Secretary of Education," he ordered. "Contact Carl Rold on Mars. His base just became our first testing ground." His voice was filled with urgency, but there was also an underlying tone of excitement. The general knew that this moment marked a turning point. The Empire had made the mistake of underestimating humanity's potential, and it would prove to be their undoing. As Patterson left the room to continue his calls, Ashley turned to her father and Dr. Brooks, her face reflecting a quiet determination. "The Empire thinks they're giving us time to accept our defeat," Ashley said, her voice steady. "But they don't understand what humans are really capable of." As she spoke, the floating coffee cup that had been an earlier sign of their quantum breakthrough splashed back into the cup, yet not a single drop was spilled. It was as if the very laws of physics were bending around them, conforming to the whims of their new understanding of the universe. Amanda smiled, a sense of satisfaction flooding her as she watched the coffee settle. Their path forward was clear now, and they were no longer constrained by the same rules that had bound them before. They had unlocked the secrets to defeating an empire that thought it was invincible, and the possibilities were endless. 6 months into the countdown, the once quiet and unassuming asteroid base known as Saras had transformed into the hub of humanity's last hope. James "Jimmy" Walker, a former SpaceX engineer who had become a military contractor for Project Threshold, stood in the heart of the base, surrounded by what he affectionately called the ugliest fleet humanity has ever built. These ships, though visually chaotic and disordered, were unlike anything the Empire could have anticipated. Jimmy had discarded every traditional rule of spacecraft design in favor of something far more unconventional. "They're perfect," Ashley Thompson declared, her voice carrying a note of awe as she floated beside him in the low gravity of the base. At just 17 years old, Ashley had already become the leader of the Quantum Integration Division, bridging the gap between human intuition and the complexities of quantum mechanics. Behind her, a dozen other teenagers worked diligently at quantum-enhanced control stations, their minds linked to the ships they were constructing. "Perfect isn't the word I'd use," Jimmy chuckled, his eyes scanning the fleet of 30 ships. "They look more like abstract art made from scrap metal." His voice was light, but the seriousness of the situation hung in the air. "That's exactly why they work," Ashley insisted, her confidence unwavering. "The Empire's sensors are designed to look for symmetry, for ships that conform to their rigid ideas of what a warship should be. But these ships," she gestured to the fleet, each one unique in its asymmetry, their chaos theory made real. The ships, in all their oddness, were the embodiment of humanity's new approach to warfare. They were unpredictable, impossible to track, and designed to exploit the weaknesses in the Empire's technology. They would be their first line of defense against a foe that could destroy planets without breaking a sweat. On the main construction platform, Dr. Amanda Brooks was overseeing the installation of the quantum core into the flagship, now named Pandora's Box. The ship's interior was a maze of curved corridors and non-Euclidean spaces, all designed to channel quantum fields in ways that would send imperial physicists into a frenzy. It was a ship unlike any the Empire had seen before, a ship that defied the very rules they thought governed the universe. "How's the neural interface coming along?" Jimmy called down to Amanda as he watched a construction worker weld another irregular panel onto the hull of one of the ships. "Ask your pilot," Amanda replied with a grin. "Right on cue." The ship's external lights began to pulse in a complex, mesmerizing pattern, their synchronization perfectly aligned with the ship's internal quantum systems. On the bridge, 15-year-old Marcus Chin, the son of Lieutenant Chin, sat inside what looked like a meditation pod. His consciousness was linked directly with the ship, allowing him to extend his mind through the quantum fields and become one with the vessel. Ashley laughed as the lights pulsed in perfect harmony. "We're getting there," she said, but we still need to work on the response time. It's too slow. Before anyone could respond, the alarm blared through the base, followed by the crackling sound of Jimmy's communicator. Carl Rold's voice, tense and urgent, filled the air. Imperial scout ship just quantum jumped into the belt. Everyone go dark now. Instantly, the entire construction bay was plunged into darkness. The hum of activity stopped as everyone scrambled to take cover, but it wasn't fear that gripped them. They had a plan. Ashley closed her eyes and extended her consciousness through the quantum field, feeling the minds of the other quantum-sensitive teens link with hers. Together, they formed a shield of pure possibility around the fleet, bending the quantum field to obscure their presence. Through their shared perception, they watched as the Imperial scout ship passed within 10,000 kilometers of their position. Its sensors swept the asteroid belt, scanning for any sign of human activity. But where its scans should have revealed a massive construction operation, they found nothing but empty space. The ships and installations that had been so painstakingly built were completely invisible to the enemy. "It's not that we're invisible," Ashley whispered, maintaining her concentration. "We're existing in a state of quantum uncertainty. As far as their sensors are concerned, we're simultaneously here and not here." Jimmy murmured under his breath, "Shard's dinner fleet. Your father would be proud. He's too busy revolutionizing quantum physics with General Patterson back on Earth," Ashley said with a hint of pride. "Did you know they figured out how to—" Before she could finish, an incoming transmission interrupted. Carl Rold's hologram appeared in the command center. His expression was serious. "Good news and bad news, people," he said. "The good news, our quantum shielding worked perfectly. They didn't detect any of our installations." He paused, allowing the relief to settle in before delivering the bad news. "The bad news, they're beginning to position gravitational sensors throughout the system. Traditional stealth won't be enough anymore." Ashley's voice came through the quantum link, her tone confident. "It won't matter. By the time they figure out how to track us, we'll be ready to show them exactly what we can do." As Jimmy watched the construction crews emerge from hiding and resume their work with renewed urgency, he couldn't help but marvel at the ships they had created. Ugly or not, they were a testament to humanity's ingenuity, resilience, and ability to defy the odds. Each ship represented humanity's greatest achievement, and their greatest hope for survival. "For months," Jimmy said quietly, his eyes tracing the outlines of the ships. "Do you think we'll be ready?" Ashley's eyes glowed faintly as she reached out to touch the hull of Pandora's box, feeling the quantum possibilities thrumming beneath its surface. "We have to be," she said. "But the real question is, will the Empire be ready for us?" Above them, Marcus was running another neural interface test, making the ship ripple between states of existence like a mirage in space. Each ripple represented a new possibility, a new way of breaking the rules the Empire thought were immutable. In the darkness between the asteroids, humanity's impossible fleet grew stronger, waiting for the moment to show the galaxy that sometimes, the best way to win isn't to play by the rules, it's to change the game entirely. On Mars, Carl Rold stood on the Bridge of Liberty's shadow, watching Earth's blue marble shrink in the distance. The quantum-integrated bridge hummed with possibility, its surfaces shifting like liquid metal under the touch of the teenage crew. Marcus Chen's voice filled the air as his consciousness merged with the ship's quantum core. Imperial fleet detected. 8 dreadnoughts, 20 cruisers, and something massive behind them. It's larger than anything in their technical specifications. "That'll be High Admiral Excar's personal world breaker," Rold said with a grim smile. "Right on schedule." "Status of our fleet?" Ashley's voice came through the quantum link, her mind spread across all 30 ships of humanity's hidden armada. "All ships in quantum flux," she said. "The Empire's sensors are reading us as nothing but a void." The final showdown was approaching and humanity's fleet was ready to reveal its true power, unpredictable, quantum-powered, and poised to rewrite the rules of war forever. Empty space. "We're ready." Carl Reynolds took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment press down on him. This was it. Everything humanity had worked for had led to this single instant. Operation Look Glass was a go. The fleet of asymmetrical ships, each one a testament to human ingenuity and the brilliance of young minds, began to ripple and shift as they entered a new quantum state. They weren't just ships anymore. They were the very embodiment of possibility, bending the laws of physics, defying conventional reality in ways the Empire would never have imagined. Through the quantum link, Kahlo could feel the exhilaration of the young pilots, their hearts racing with the adrenaline of what was about to unfold. They weren't simply flying ships. They were pushing the boundaries of physics itself. All ships, Execute attack pattern Theta 0, Kalo commanded, his voice steady but filled with the kind of anticipation only those who had witnessed humanity's impossible rise could understand. The fleet, a wild collection of ships built from every scrap of humanity's remaining hope, moved together as one, becoming something between existence and possibility, a living anomaly in the fabric of spacetime. Through the quantum link, Kalo could sense each vessel's pilot, a sea of young minds that were no longer constrained by the laws of physics. These ships weren't just vessels, they were extensions of the children's wills, powered by minds that could manipulate reality itself. In the command center aboard the Imperial flagship, High Admiral Exgar, a towering alien with crystalline scales that flickered with the light of distant stars, reviewed the data with growing satisfaction. His senses were heightened, attuned to the energy readings that displayed across his command console. Primitive defenses, no significant space presence detected. Begin standard subjugation protocol, Exgar ordered, his voice as cold as the void itself. He was confident, perhaps overly so, that this would be a simple operation, just another routine conquest of an inferior species. Little did he know the galaxy was about to change forever. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when 3 Imperial dreadnoughts, massive, almost invincible warships, simply ceased to exist. They vanished from the sensors as if they had never been there at all. What in the void? Exgar demanded, his voice thick with disbelief. His crystalline scales shimmered with agitation as he watched the readings flicker on his screens. Report. What's happening? Impossible readings, High Admiral, one of his officers stammered, his voice laced with panic. Energy signatures are appearing and disappearing faster than our sensors can track them. They're everywhere and nowhere at once. Exgar's mind raced, his gaze darting between his tactical displays and the confused faces of his crew. The reports were nonsensical. Ships didn't behave like this. No known technology could bend reality in such a way. Yet, as he stared into the void, the impossible was unfolding before his eyes. Back on Earth, Kalo Reynolds, aboard the flagship Liberty's Shadow, was already monitoring the situation through enhanced quantum sensors. He could see it happening in real time. The Empire's mighty ships, so accustomed to dominating the battlefield with their technological superiority, were helpless against the chaotic quantum storm humanity had unleashed. These were no longer just ships. They were the very essence of chaos theory made manifest. They could choose which laws of reality to obey at any given moment, bending time and space at will. Second wave, Kalo barked, his voice sharp and filled with purpose. Show them what humanity's children can do. Ashley Thompson, the brilliant 17-year-old leader of Earth's Quantum Integration Division, was already working her magic. Her consciousness reached out, guiding 5 ships into a complex quantum dance. The ships blurred, merging and separating, creating patterns so disorienting to the eye that they almost seemed to defy the concept of shape or form. They were no longer confined to the 3-dimensional realm that the Empire knew. They existed across multiple quantum states simultaneously, weaving in and out of reality like living shadows. Imperial point defense systems locked onto the ships, their targeting systems already primed for the kill. But how do you shoot something that exists in multiple states at once? How do you destroy a ship that is everywhere and nowhere? The Empire's weapons, designed for a universe where things obeyed simple rules, were rendered utterly useless. Multiple contacts, an Imperial officer screamed, his voice trembling in terror. They're inside our shields. Impossible. Possible, came the cold reply from Exgar, though his confidence was beginning to crack. Nothing can penetrate Class X Imperial shields. His words fell flat as reality itself seemed to bend around the humans' fleet. Marcus Chin, just 15 years old but already a master of quantum manipulation, smiled as he guided Liberty's Shadow through the quantum foam of existence. "Watch me," he whispered, his voice filled with the kind of quiet confidence that only the young, unburdened by doubt, could possess. The ship phased through the Imperial flagship's impenetrable shields as if they weren't even there, leaving the mighty warship defenseless in its wake. The quantum weapons humanity had developed, designed by minds still in their teens, unfettered by the limits of conventional physics, didn't just destroy Imperial ships. They rewrote their very existence. Where once mighty dreadnoughts had stood, now only quantum probability clouds lingered, scattered across multiple dimensions, their component atoms dispersed in ways that defied comprehension. Status report. Kalo barked as Liberty's Shadow reformed in normal space, its shimmering hull coming back into focus. 17 Imperial capital ships neutralized, Ashley reported through the quantum link. 0 casualties on our side. But sir, The World Breaker is powering up. The World Breaker, a massive Imperial warship easily the size of Manhattan, began to glow with terrible purpose. Its weapon, capable of cracking planets in half, was now charging with enough energy to obliterate Earth. The human fleet had made its move, but the Empire still had one final, devastating weapon at its disposal. Just as Excar prepared to unleash his devastating blow, Dr. Amanda Brooks' voice came through the comm system from the command center on Saras. The Worldbreaker's power signature. It's exactly what we've been waiting for. A smile tugged at the corners of Kyle Reynolds' lips. Execute Operation Mirror, he ordered, his voice calm but resolute. Ashley, her eyes glowing faintly as she accessed the shared consciousness of the fleet, reached out to every quantum-sensitive teenager aboard the ships. As one, they responded, their minds linking in perfect harmony, a collective force that reached far beyond any single individual. Together they grabbed the fabric of space-time and twisted it. They didn't fight the Worldbreaker's weapon, they mirrored it. The Worldbreaker fired its planet-killing beam into a quantum mirror of its own existence. The beam curved through impossible geometries, splitting into 1,000 different possibilities. It emerged behind the Imperial fleet, creating a dazzling array of light as it distorted through the very fabric of reality. For the first time, the Empire's mighty weapon found itself turned against the very fleet it had been meant to destroy. The last thing High Admiral Excar saw before he activated the emergency teleportation system was his own fleet being shattered by his own weapon, transformed and warped by humanity's quantum manipulation into something even he couldn't comprehend. Imperial fleet is in full retreat, Marcus reported, his young voice thick with triumph. Confirmed hits on 23 capital ships. The Worldbreaker, sir. It's running away. Kyle watched as the quantum probability displays on his console showed the Empire's once mighty armada fleeing in terror. Their ships, vast and imposing just hours ago, were now nothing more than shattered fragments, defeated by ships that shouldn't have existed, crewed by children who had rewritten the rules of war. Send the message, Kyle ordered. Let them know this was just our first warning shot. 3 days later the Empire came back but not with a fleet. This time they came with an armada. Thousands of Imperial ships dropped out of quantum space simultaneously, their formation so massive that it seemed to block out the very stars themselves. The Empire had adapted quickly. They're learning faster than we anticipated, Dr. Mike Thompson murmured, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The Empire had figured out how to mimic humanity's quantum fluctuations, to replicate the very trick that had given Earth's fleet its edge. Ashley Thompson's voice rang out from her command pod above Pandora's box. Their shields, they're trying to replicate our quantum fluctuations, she announced. They've adapted, Kyle muttered, his eyes narrowing. But we've already moved beyond them. Ashley closed her eyes, reaching not for the ships or weapons, but for space itself, the very quantum field that allowed reality to exist. The field responded to her call, and behind her, 300 teenagers across Earth's defense facilities joined their power to hers. Together they reached into the fabric of space-time, twisting it as they had before, but this time with a force far beyond what the Empire had encountered. The space between the fleets began to crystallize, locking in place in a way no one had ever seen before. Excar's fleet, already struggling with the quantum anomalies, found itself frozen in place, unable to move. No one can freeze quantum probability, Excar roared, his voice cracking with fury. We're not freezing it, Ashley replied coolly, her voice broadcast across all frequencies. We're dancing with it. The crystallized space shattered into 1 billion fragments, each one a quantum reflection of the Imperial fleet's own weapons, turned back on them with a force that was beyond comprehension. And just like that, the tide of the war had shifted forever. Reflecting, enhancing, modifying, improving. The order was simple but laden with the weight of what was at stake. Kyle Reynolds stood at the helm of humanity's smaller fleet, watching as their weapons engaged. Each shot fired was not a singular event. Each one split into hundreds, each fragment carrying a probability of a hit. These weapons passed through the quantum crystal field, the very fabric of reality they had so carefully crafted, and altered the very nature of warfare itself. The Imperial fleet, once so confident in their technological superiority, now found themselves facing not just their own reflected energy, but something far more devastating: weaponized uncertainty. Weapons locked. Marcus Chen's voice came through from the Liberty's Shadow Command Pod, filled with the quiet satisfaction of a teenager who had mastered the impossible. Their quantum dampeners are failing. They didn't account for quantum crystallization. How could they? We just invented it. The Imperial flagship, A monstrous behemoth 5 times the size of the World Breaker, was already charging its main gun. High Admiral Excar, whose crystalline scales reflected the light of 1,000 stars, stood before his command console, fury building behind his unblinking gaze. "If we can't conquer Earth," he muttered under his breath, "we'll destroy it." His words, spoken with cold finality, resonated through the dark halls of his flagship. But what he failed to anticipate was that humanity had already rewritten the rules. As Excar prepared to unleash the devastating weapon, something unimaginable happened. Ashley Thompson, connected through the quantum link to the minds of hundreds of Earth's young pilots, reached through the quantum crystal field and touched the very essence of the Imperial weapon itself. But she didn't intend to destroy it. No, she aimed to change its fundamental nature, to rewrite its purpose. She wasn't simply stopping the weapon, she was transforming it. When the World Breaker fired its beam of pure destructive energy, it collided with the crystal field, and in that instant the beam was irrevocably changed. Where death had been intended, something else emerged entirely. The energy, once destined to annihilate, now bloomed into something beautiful. The space between Earth and Mars seemed to come alive, blooming with quantum energy, reshaping itself into patterns of impossible beauty, patterns that defied all known laws of physics and geometry. It wasn't destruction, it was creation. It wasn't death, it was life. The Imperial fleet, which had prepared for an annihilating blow, found itself enveloped not by death, but by a manifestation of pure, vibrant life, a cosmic painting made of light and energy. Excar, watching in disbelief, was struck dumb. His flagship, which had once been the embodiment of invincible might, now hovered in space, its massive form suspended in awe. What is this?" Excar whispered, his voice barely audible, almost reverent. "What is happening to my weapon? My fleet? What have you done?" Ashley's voice resonated through the quantum link, strong and unshakable. "This is humanity," she said, her voice carrying not just through the speakers of Excar's flagship but through the very fabric of reality itself. "We don't just break the rules. We transform them." The Imperial fleet stood motionless in space, unable to comprehend what was happening. Their quantum adaptations, which they had believed would give them the upper hand, had instead been turned into something entirely different. What had once been a tool of war was now a celebration of possibility, a symbol of everything the Empire could never understand. The young pilots aboard the Imperial ships, the ones who had been trained to suppress their creativity in favor of cold control, began to realize the truth. The very nature of their existence was a lie. Ashley's voice continued, now filling the minds of every Imperial pilot, every quantum-sensitive individual aboard the fleet. "Your empire is built on control," she said softly, "but the universe isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be explored. It's meant to be transformed. It's meant to be danced with." As Ashley spoke, Marcus Chin, aboard the Liberty's Shadow, executed a complex pattern of quantum fire, launching bursts of energy across the stars in chaotic but beautiful arcs, their trajectories impossible to predict. The display was not just one of destruction, it was an expression of creation, of art, of life itself. Each strike that went out from the fleet now carried with it not just the potential for harm, but the potential for a completely new reality to emerge. The universe itself was now a canvas and humanity was painting it anew. Meanwhile, High Admiral Excar, staring at his screens in stunned disbelief, could do nothing but watch as his fleet, once a symbol of cold, efficient dominance, now seemed to freeze in place. The Imperial fleet, for all its technological might, could not comprehend what was unfolding. His quantum-sensitive officers, so sure of their abilities, now found themselves in the midst of something they could neither predict nor control. They had come to Earth to teach humanity its place, but instead, humanity had shown them a new way to exist. The very principles of the Empire's military doctrine were now obsolete. The quantum crystal field that spanned the space between Mars and Earth continued to shimmer and pulse with life, a constant reminder of the possibility that humanity had unleashed. It was a field of potential, of hope, and it stood as a testament to everything the Empire had feared and misunderstood about humanity's potential. As Dr. Amanda Brooks and Colonel Cowell rolled prepared for the next phase of the operation, the weight of the moment hung heavily in the air. The Liberty's shadow hummed with the anticipation of what was to come. The quantum signature of Excar's flagship had begun to stabilize, meaning they had a narrow window of opportunity before the Imperial forces could adapt to what had just transpired. "Marcus, what's the status?" Cowell asked, his voice steady as ever. "They're trying to regroup," Marcus replied, his voice tinged with the excitement of battle. "Trying to understand what just happened. but I've mapped their quantum signature. They don't know how to adapt fast enough. We've got 30 seconds. Good. That's our window, Cowell said, his tone sharp. Ashley, are you ready? From the quantum link, Ashley's consciousness brushed against his and Marcus's. I've mapped every quantum probability in their ship, she replied, her voice calm but filled with purpose. We'll have exactly 30 seconds before they can adapt to us again. Dad, Dr. Mike Thompson's voice came through from Earth. Are you sure about the calculations? The quantum entanglement, it will hold, but please be careful. Time to show them who we really are, Amanda said, checking her quantum pistol, a weapon capable of shifting its target through multiple probability states simultaneously. It was a dangerous weapon, but it was the only kind of weapon that could match the Empire's might. Marcus, initiate quantum shift, Cowell commanded. The minds of the teenagers aboard the Liberty's shadow merged as one, and the ship phased between realities, no longer bound by the limitations of conventional spacetime. They didn't so much teleport onto the Imperial flagship as they decided to exist there instead of their previous location. In a single, fluid motion, they materialized directly in the heart of Excar's command center, the crystalline structure of the flagship's interior shimmering around them. Before the Imperial guards could react, Ashley created a quantum probability bubble around them. The bubble froze everything within it in a state of infinite possibility, neither acting nor not acting. Everything was in flux, suspended between states. Excar rose from his crystalline throne, his scales flickering with barely contained rage. Have you come to gloat, humans? He demanded, his voice a low growl. Amanda stepped forward, holding up a quantum data crystal. No, she said firmly. We've come to show you something. Your Empire's greatest secret. Ashley reached out with her mind, connecting to every quantum-sensitive being aboard the ship, both human and Imperial alike. Through their shared consciousness, she began broadcasting the contents of the data crystal. Images began to fill the command center, each one a shocking testament to the Empire's cruelty. Thousands of worlds, each one unique, each one destroyed not by warfare or natural disaster but by systematic Imperial cleansing. Civilizations that had developed along different lines than the Empire's approved path were erased from existence, as if they had never been. How did you get these records? Excar demanded, his voice rising in fury. Where did you get this data? Your warning message, Cowell replied, his voice unwavering. The one you sent to Earth. It contained quantum echoes of every civilization you've destroyed. You kept them as trophies, but you never realized that the quantum signatures of their final moments were encoded in the transmission. Excar's face contorted with anger. So what? He spat. The Empire brings order to chaos. Those who cannot adapt must die. Ashley's voice rang out, her words now carrying the weight of hundreds of young minds, human and Imperial, united in a single collective thought. Must die, she repeated, because they found a different way. A better way. The quantum crystal field between Mars and Earth pulsed with light, its energy reaching across space. In that light, the quantum-sensitive Imperial youth began to see their own potential reflected back at them, not just for destruction but for creation. Not just for conquest but for growth. In the glow of that light, they began to understand that the Empire's doctrine of control was a lie that had held them captive for far too long. This Empire is based on a lie, Amanda said. Softly, her words resonating with a quiet but powerful truth. The lie that there's only one right way to exist. Ashley reached out again, this time connecting to every quantum communication network in Imperial space. Through their consolidated consciousness, humanity's message spread across the galaxy. Not just the evidence of the Empire's atrocities but a demonstration of another way. A way that valued freedom, creativity, and the boundless possibilities of the quantum universe. And in that moment, the true battle was not between two fleets, but between two visions of existence. The Empire's rigid control was crumbling, and humanity's vision of an open, infinite reality was beginning to take root. The war had shifted once again, but this time, it was humanity's turn to teach the Empire the lesson they had so arrogantly thought they would impart. Transformed? The word echoed through the vastness of space, resonating with the realization of humanity's true legacy. The quantum crystal field shimmered, displaying not just the triumphs of human history, but the raw, unfiltered truth of it. Its wars, its mistakes, the hard-fought lessons and the moments of growth. Images flickered through the vast quantum fabric of reality, showing humanity's journey from its earliest days, through its failures and missteps, to the moment when humanity's children reached out to touch the quantum fabric of the universe, not to control it but to dance with it. This is your true legacy, Colonel Connell Reynolds told High Admiral Excar, who stood frozen, watching as his empire's carefully maintained order began to unravel. The truth was laid bare before him, not the worlds they had destroyed, but the possibilities they had denied, including their own. The images continued to unfold, painting a vivid portrait of humanity's potential for change and creation. The quantum crystal field, once a tool of war, now represented the boundless potential for new realities. Around them, the Imperial quantum sensitives, once bound by rigid doctrines, began to experiment with their newfound freedom. Their young minds, unburdened by the Empire's oppressive rules, now ventured into the unknown, discovering possibilities they had never been taught to see. Space itself seemed to hold its breath as the fabric of the universe bloomed with possibility. The void, once a place of darkness and emptiness, now pulsed with the energy of transformation. The universe's change, Ashley Thompson's voice echoed, still resonating across the quantum link that connected billions of beings throughout the galaxy. It's time your empire learned to change with it. In that moment, as reality itself shimmered with potential, the empire was faced with its greatest threat, not destruction but transformation. The very foundation of their existence, built on control and conquest, was crumbling. They had tried to impose order on a universe that could not be contained. And now they would have to face the truth that the universe was not a thing to be conquered, but a force to be understood, embraced, and explored. 1 year after the Empire's warning message, Ashley stood before the newly formed Galactic Confederation Council in a vast chamber constructed in Earth's orbit. It was a space unlike any other, a place where quantum probability itself facilitated understanding between species. The walls of the chamber, composed of the finest quantum crystals, shifted constantly between different states of matter. This made it possible for all beings, from the most advanced to the most primitive, to perceive reality in their own way while still sharing the same physical space. It was a symbol of what the Confederation stood for: diversity, understanding, and infinite possibilities. Young minds from 1,000 different worlds, including former Imperial territories, helped maintain the impossible architecture of the chamber. These minds were free from the constraints of the old doctrines that had once ruled the galaxy. The quantum revolution was not just about advanced technology, it was about a profound shift in understanding. It was about the realization that the universe held more possibilities than any single species could ever imagine or control. Ashley addressed the assembled representatives, her voice resonating through the quantum frequencies of the chamber, which translated her words into the hearts and minds of all present. "We faced extinction," she began, "but today we embark on a new journey, one that will take us beyond the known boundaries of space. This is the first joint quantum exploration mission beyond known space. Our ships will carry crews from every member world, including former Imperial worlds, and yes," she smiled, "most of our quantum specialists are still teenagers." A ripple of amusement passed through the quantum field as the delegates, representing diverse species from across the galaxy, shared a moment of lightheartedness. The transformation of humanity had not been solely intellectual. It had brought a sense of wonder and excitement to the galaxy's younger generations. Former High Admiral Excar, now serving as Ambassador Zexer, sat in the front row, his scales glowing a peaceful blue. Beside him was his daughter Kelly, one of the first Imperial quantum sensitives to embrace the new way. Kelly demonstrated her mastery of quantum manipulation by existing in 3 probability states simultaneously, a remarkable feat that drew the admiration of the Council. Ashley reached out with her mind, connecting to every quantum sensitive being aboard the ship, both human and Imperial alike. Through their shared consciousness, she began broadcasting the contents of the data crystal. Images began to fill the command center, each one a shocking testament to the Empire's cruelty. Thousands of worlds, each one unique, each one destroyed not by warfare or natural disaster but by systematic Imperial cleansing. Civilizations that had developed along different lines than the Empire's approved path were erased from existence, as if they had never been. "How did you get these records?" Excar demanded, his voice rising in fury. "Where did you get this data?" "Your warning message," Kahlo replied, his voice unwavering. "The one you sent to Earth. It contained quantum echoes of every civilization you've destroyed. You kept them as trophies, but you never realized that the quantum signatures of their final moments were encoded in the transmission." Excar's face contorted with anger. "So what?" he spat. "The Empire brings order to chaos. Those who cannot adapt must die." Ashley's voice rang out, her words now carrying the weight of hundreds of young minds, human and Imperial, united in a single collective thought. "Must die," she repeated, "because they found a different way. A better way." The quantum crystal field between Mars and Earth pulsed with light, its energy reaching across space. In that light, the quantum-sensitive Imperial youth began to see their own potential reflected back at them, not just for destruction but for creation. Not just for conquest but for growth. In the glow of that light, they began to understand that the Empire's doctrine of control was a lie that had held them captive for far too long. "This Empire is based on a lie," Amanda said. Softly, her words resonating with a quiet but powerful truth. "The lie that there's only one right way to exist." Ashley reached out again, this time connecting to every quantum communication network in Imperial space. Through their consolidated consciousness, humanity's message spread across the galaxy. Not just the evidence of the Empire's atrocities but a demonstration of another way. A way that valued freedom, creativity, and the boundless possibilities of the quantum universe. And in that moment, the true battle was not between two fleets, but between two visions of existence. The Empire's rigid control was crumbling, and humanity's vision of an open, infinite reality was beginning to take root. The war had shifted once again, but this time, it was humanity's turn to teach the Empire the lesson they had so arrogantly thought they would impart. Transformed? The word echoed through the vastness of space, resonating with the realization of humanity's true legacy. The quantum crystal field shimmered, displaying not just the triumphs of human history, but the raw, unfiltered truth of it. Its wars, its mistakes, the hard-fought lessons and the moments of growth. Images flickered through the vast quantum fabric of reality, showing humanity's journey from its earliest days, through its failures and missteps, to the moment when humanity's children reached out to touch the quantum fabric of the universe, not to control it but to dance with it. "This is your true legacy," Colonel Colo Reynolds told High Admiral Excar, who stood frozen, watching as his empire's carefully maintained order began to unravel. The truth was laid bare before him, not the worlds they had destroyed, but the possibilities they had denied, including their own. The images continued to unfold, painting a vivid portrait of humanity's potential for change and creation. The quantum crystal field, once a tool of war, now represented the boundless potential for new realities. Around them, the Imperial quantum sensitives, once bound by rigid doctrines, began to experiment with their newfound freedom. Their young minds, unburdened by the Empire's oppressive rules, now ventured into the unknown, discovering possibilities they had never been taught to see. Space itself seemed to hold its breath as the fabric of the universe bloomed with possibility. The void, once a place of darkness and emptiness, now pulsed with the energy of transformation. "The universe is change," Ashley Thompson's voice echoed, still resonating across the quantum link that connected billions of beings throughout the galaxy. "It's time your empire learned to change with it." In that moment, as reality itself shimmered with potential, the Empire was faced with its greatest threat, not destruction but transformation. The very foundation of their existence, built on control and conquest, was crumbling. They had tried to impose order on a universe that could not be contained. And now they would have to face the truth that the universe was not a thing to be conquered, but a force to be understood, embraced, and explored. 1 year after the Empire's warning message, Ashley stood before the newly formed Galactic Confederation Council in a vast chamber constructed in Earth's orbit. It was a space unlike any other, a place where quantum probability itself facilitated understanding between species. The walls of the chamber, composed of the finest quantum crystals, shifted constantly between different states of matter. This made it possible for all beings, from the most advanced to the most primitive, to perceive reality in their own way while still sharing the same physical space. It was a symbol of what the Confederation stood for: diversity, understanding, and infinite possibilities. Young minds from 1,000 different worlds, including former Imperial territories, helped maintain the impossible architecture of the chamber. These minds were free from the constraints of the old doctrines that had once ruled the galaxy. The quantum revolution was not just about advanced technology, it was about a profound shift in understanding. It was about the realization that the universe held more possibilities than any single species could ever imagine or control. Ashley addressed the assembled representatives, her voice resonating through the quantum frequencies of the chamber, which translated her words into the hearts and minds of all present. "We faced extinction," she began, "but today we embark on a new journey, one that will take us beyond the known boundaries of space. This is the first joint quantum exploration mission beyond known space. Our ships will carry crews from every member world, including former Imperial worlds, and yes," she smiled, "most of our quantum specialists are still teenagers." A ripple of amusement passed through the quantum field as the delegates, representing diverse species from across the galaxy, shared a moment of lightheartedness. The transformation of humanity had not been solely intellectual. It had brought a sense of wonder and excitement to the galaxy's younger generations. Former High Admiral Excar, now serving as Ambassador Zexer, sat in the front row, his scales glowing a peaceful blue. Beside him was his daughter Kelly, one of the first Imperial quantum sensitives to embrace the new way. Kelly demonstrated her mastery of quantum manipulation by existing in 3 probability states simultaneously, a remarkable feat that drew the admiration of the Council.